All right, man, peace. So, brothers, the question begs to be asked, what's next for Mr. Ja Morant, the upcoming star point guard, maybe even superstar point guard of the Memphis Grizzlies? He's garnered many comparisons to Mr. Russell Westbrook, the force of nature player, formerly of the OKC Thunder, currently of the Houston Rockets. But I would liken Ja Morant more to, and I think that this might be his ceiling, a more offensively minded Gary Payton if he plays his cards right. If he plays his cards right, that's what he will model his game after. A great two-way point guard who can pass the ball and take over down the stretch of games. Russell Westbrook, as super talented as he is, never had the overall basketball acumen of a Mr. Gary Payton, and certainly was nowhere near as impactful on the defensive side. Gary Payton, due to the process of time, has kind of left the overall basketball consciousness when we start evaluating who are the greatest point guards of all time. But please keep in mind that the Seattle Supersonics went to the Western Conference Finals in 1993 and went 7 games with the Phoenix Suns. They were 1 game away from playing the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals in 1993. They were the consensus favorites to reach the NBA Finals in 1995 but got knocked out by the Denver Nuggets. And in 1994, I believe they got knocked out by the LA Lakers, especially in that season where, according to Kenny Smith, they were scared of the Supersonics because they felt like that team had their number and had very good matchups on them. So they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs in 94 and 95. And then in 1996, they won 64 games and were able to reach the NBA Finals to square off against one of the greatest teams of all time, if not the greatest NBA team of all time, in the 1996 Chicago Bulls that won 72 games. But please keep in mind that Gary Payton was the Defensive Player of the Year that year. Gary Payton was a player who normally shot in the mid-40s percentile in an era in the 1990s where the field goal percentages overall normally went down a peg because of the great defense. He normally averaged anywhere from 19 to 22 points per game and anywhere from 7 to 9 assists per game. All that with being by far the best defensive point guard in the NBA. The only point guard who may have even come close to Gary Payton when it comes to defensive impact was Mookie Blaylock. But even Mookie wasn't close to Gary when it comes to all the things that he could do. He can guard you one-on-one. He could steal the basketball. He was a great help defender. And once again, that's not even speaking about the 20 points and 8 assists, 8.5, 9 assists that he was going to give you on the offensive end and be a very impactful and clutch performer down the stretch of pivotal games, whether in the regular season or the playoffs. So once again, to me, that is who Ja Morant should be trying to model his game after, and maybe add certain aspects or components of Russell Westbrook into that. And if he can do that, he will automatically become a multiple-time MVP candidate and maybe even win an MVP award or two, depending on how many games his team wins in a particular season. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Jump. We're taking a look at a bunch of the teams down here in the Orlando bubble, and because it's been so very long since we saw them actually play basketball, we're catching you up on where they left off before the shutdown. Oh yes, it's time for Previously on the Memphis Grizzlies.
Your dad used to trash talk you.
Yeah, I never heard anything positive from him. Still though.
Things like that are why people like Ja Morant now say that Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever. Because I'm sure that when he watched The Last Dance, he saw a lot of himself in Michael Jordan, and he saw a lot of the relationship that Michael Jordan had with his dad and the rapport that he has with his own father. And for those of us who grew up with that certain type of father, you know that it was very difficult. It was like trying to draw blood out of a turnip to get your father to tell you good things about yourself. But as you become older, you understand why they were so stern with you. It was to prepare you for the world that's even sterner than them.
It's negative. So.
Ja turns the cushion that James Harden here gives him into an easy 3. He clearly says, "Tell that mother bleeper about me." After the game, he signed his jersey and sent it over to the Lakers locker room for LeBron, unsolicited. Yep, LeBron said he didn't even ask for it. Morant just assumed that he would want it. I love this kid. Look at this guy.
He's my favorite player right now.
Really?
I love Jaren Jackson Jr. I can't get enough of the dude. Love him.
These guys are competitive. They have their killer mentality.
I think I would actually call this trolling instead of a trick.
The Grizzlies are about 3 years away. They have a nice young team. They're probably going to have to acquire a superstar player to get over the hump but they're about 3 years away.
Benches research other benches. I mean, not just the scouting reports, but the celebration.
That's the next level.
I'm sorry, but these NBA benches today, they're so damn feminine. I mean, don't get it twisted. Back in the day, back in the 90s, late 80s, the benches would get excited. They would get hyped. But doing all these coordinated dances like the fucking Rockettes, it's like, dude, sit your bitch ass down.
I came in this league to try to prove that I can compete with the best, and that's just my mentality.
They were supposed to win 28 games. They're over 500.
I'm flabbergasted that Memphis is this good.
The best second in basketball right now is the moment that Ja Morant elevates for what might be a shot, might be a pass. Who knows what's going to happen?
Why are Ja's misses more impressive than most players' makes?
Because he tries anything.
One thing for sure, he's an entertainer. He's out there playing playground-style basketball in NBA sets.
Right, Ja Morant, I'm saying this right now, he's going to be an MVP in this league.
Whoa.
No.
That's a great prediction, because that is going out on a limb. There are very few people who are predicting that for a Ja Morant. I could see that as his ceiling. That is his utmost ceiling. If he's able to do what I requested that he should do, or suggested that he should do, which is watch a lot of Gary Payton film and try to become a higher level threat defensively, as well as raising his offensive potency and proficiency, then indeed he could become a possible MVP candidate. Can I see him winning one, maybe even two? Once again, if he reaches that ceiling and partially breaks through. But the NBA, especially for the next 10 years, is going to be promoting initially. They're going to see how many more MVPs they can squeeze out of Giannis, maybe James Harden, maybe give a sympathy one to LeBron James. Who knows, a comeback player of the year type of MVP award to a Steph Curry or Kevin Durant. That's what's going to be happening over the next 5 years or so. But after that, you're going to start to see the MVP award to go to people possibly like a Ja Morant, definitely to a Luka Doncic, barring injury, a Zion Williamson, a Jason Tatum, players of that caliber.
He's going to be an MVP in this league, and he's going to be arguably the best player in the game.
High praise. Take a look where Ja ranks among the other rookies this season. First in points, first in assists, first in usage, and third in PER.
He has to raise those PPGs by about 5 points per game, and those assists by about 3 assists per game. If he can get his three-point shooting percentage around 40% and have his team somewhere in those low 50s to maybe even upper 50s in wins per season, that would place him in the MVP candidacy.
Of course, led the Grizzlies to currently holding the 8th seed. So, Kendrick, what are your expectations for Ja Morant in Orlando here?
I expect him to show out. I'm not quite sure if his team's going to make the playoffs, because I think that Portland, they just have a lot of that veteran savvy to them, where they may find a way to make that playoff run, that playoff push, especially if things happen with the New Orleans Pelicans down the stretch, the Memphis Grizzlies down the stretch. Maybe they become a little nervous, a little jittery in big moments. Who knows? We'll see. Portland certainly has a lot more to lose and a lot more to gain as well in this overall tournament. So I expect them to make it to the playoffs and not the Grizzlies or the Pelicans. Even though it would be nice to see the Pelicans make the playoffs and square off against LeBron, I actually think that the Portland Trailblazers will give the Lakers a much better matchup in the first round.
My expectations are the same. Listen, Ja Morant has not let me down since he's been at college. And Rachel, you remember on draft night?
Yeah.
When we were up there in New York, and I told you, I said, listen, I would not be mad if the New Orleans Pelicans draft Ja Morant #1. People was looking at me crazy. At the end of the day, listen, this kid is a generational talent. We know this, but he's relentless. He don't care. He got it out the mud, and he's a hell of a leader. And you know what? During this pandemic, he put on 12 pounds of muscle, and he looks phenomenal. And I've been seeing clips of Memphis and how they've been practicing and, you know, how they've been, you know, going about things. He's very mature, and this kid is on a mission, and he's not going to let his foot off the gas no time soon.
Well, let's get one thing straight. We know that Mr. Kendrick Perkins is a huge fan of Russell Westbrook. I believe that he sees a lot of Russell Westbrook in Mr. Ja Morant. I think that Ja Morant also sees a lot of Russell Westbrook in himself. And it's not that it's a bad thing to model yourself after Russell. I just think that whenever you're looking at a player that came before you in a previous generation, You have to kind of take the good, try to flesh that out, and get rid of the bad. That's why I've always called Russell Westbrook Allen Iverson 2.0. He's a better version of Allen Iverson. I'm sure that many cats out there will disagree with that. They'll say, what are you talking about? Allen was tougher. He played in a tougher era. All that stuff. Look. And it's not an insult to Allen Iverson at all. Russell Westbrook is more athletic. He's bigger. He's taller. He's faster. He's more explosive than Allen Iverson. The one thing that I will say is that Allen was probably a better pure shooter than Russell Westbrook, but not by much. Allen Iverson had seasons where he shot under 40%. And even though he played in a very tough defensive era, arguably the toughest defensive era, it wasn't like guys were allowed to just totally crowd him. He was so quick that he was able to create distance and create space for himself in an open court. So a lot of the misses that he had were just bad shot selection. But I already know a lot of Iverson fans are going to be incoming to say, what are you talking about? AI is better than Russell Westbrook. That's a whole other video for another day.
This dude is one of the most electrifying players in the NBA already. Listen, in his second or third game or something, he blocked Kyrie Irving at the buzzer of regulation, flexed all over him, trash talked everybody in sight. He announced himself right away, but what's most impressive about him is not even that. It's that most rookie point guards on rebuilding teams are not good. They don't help their teams win. The league just overwhelms them. This dude is good already. He's legitimately good. He's crafty. He thinks the game a half step ahead of everybody else on the floor. He's a good cutter off the ball. He's a decent shooter. He's just flat out really.
Most importantly, he's an exceptional passer.
And so far ahead of the curve for rookie point guards, it's incredible.
Rachel, just to piggyback off the guys, both made great points, but what I want to see is what Perk alluded to, is the 12 pounds. He's already one of the most athletic guys that we have on the floor to begin with. Now he's going to be able to kind of take that bump as he goes to the rim. How much more impactful can he be with that added weight, because he's going to be stronger and have that ability to take the contact as he goes to the rim? The sky is absolutely the limit for this kid, and my expectation is he's not going to bow out of the 8 seed that quickly, that's for sure.
Yeah, and look, we know that the off-season after a guy's rookie year,
I wonder if he took the 10 pounds that Zion Williamson lost and just added them onto his own physique.
So consequential, right? They've learned how to work out. They've learned how to, really make sure that they're getting the most out of their body. Ja Morant kind of already got that offseason after his rookie year in this shutdown. And now he's coming back for his rookie year playoffs, but it's almost like he has second-year knowledge and a second-year body. I'm so interested to see how that works. And yeah, guys, I'm also interested because we won't have fans in the stands and you're going to hear the players more. I'm really interested in the Ja Morant trash talk.
Yeah, I bet you are. You'll probably be in a damn hotel room with just your bra on and a damn sex toy, listening to all those big black men talk shit to each other.
Here for it, so we'll see if that happens. George, you mentioned.
But anyway, that's basically it on that, brothers. We'll see how things go for the Grizzlies and Mr. Ja Morant. I don't think that this is going to be their year. I could be wrong, but I just don't think that this is going to be their year. I think that they're going to be a team to watch starting next season, but also keep in mind that you have a lot of other young teams on the come up in the Western Conference. The Pelicans, the Suns, the Kings are all teams that are on the come up. So many times over the course of NBA history, you have those pivotal moments where you'll have a group of young teams that are trying to break through all at the same time, and only one breaks through. For example, in the late 80s, you had the Boston Celtics that were reigning over the rest of the Eastern Conference. The Pistons were the team on the come up, and right underneath them were the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Cavaliers. And they were all vying to see what team was going to be the team of the 90s. Because I think even the Pistons knew that with the way that they were structured, they were not going to be a great team into the 90s. And a lot of people don't understand that, like, back in the late 80s, the Atlanta Hawks were winning like in the low 50s every year. The Cleveland Cavaliers were winning 50 games, 51 games, back-to-back years. It's just that the Bulls happened to have that supernova type of superstar that catapulted them above those other teams. So which team is going to have that supernova type of superstar amongst this group of young teams right here? We'll find out. Will it be the Grizzlies and Ja Morant? Will it be the Pelicans and Zion Williamson? Will it be the Kings and De'Aaron Fox? Will it be the Suns and Devin Booker? We'll find out. We'll see. So peace.